My God, they've actually done it. I almost can't believe it, but it's true. Crimson Desert is actually very good. I've been playing this game obsessively for the past couple of weeks, sinking a little over 80 hours as of this recording, and still I can't get enough and totally intend to continue playing for some time as I'm just having loads of fun. I will say, the game, it's definitely not going to be for everyone, I'm sure. Like, if you're looking for a deep, engaging storyline with interesting characters, dialogue, and impactful moments, this really doesn't seem to be it. Or if you want, like, intuitive, easy to understand mechanics, that's a no. And if you've come to expect your games to have many of the modern day quality of life conveniences, you are also probably going to be a bit disappointed. However, if you just want a straight up open world fantasy adventure with engaging combat, extremely challenging boss fights, interesting points of interest, a highly interactive world, head-scratching puzzles, loads of hidden secrets, more mechanics than you could even know what to do with, along with all of the shenanigans of a sandbox game. Sheep rescuing, barrel exploding, chimney sweeping, bandit smashing, horse disposing, waterfall cave denying. Then damn dude, this game might just be for you. It's certainly been for me. Again, Crimson Desert, not without fault. There's absolutely things here beyond the story that will be a drag for many people, I suspect, including the overly complex controls and absurd quantity of systems and mechanics that are easy to forget and oftentimes hardly explained. However, for what it does deliver on, which is a lot, it's been just right for me. Like, this game has been a pleasant surprise and delivered an incredible amount of entertainment over these past couple of weeks. Some people will bounce off and say, I don't get it. For others, though, I think it's going to be like an all-time favorite, memorable gaming experience. It's definitely been for me. This is hands down one of my favorite games of this year, if not of the past couple of years. I'm enjoying it that much. Yeah, I really like Crimson Desert. I really do. Now, I kind of hit you with a bit of a shotgun blast description in the intro there, but let me explain. At its core, this is an open-world fantasy action-adventure sandbox game. Now, I personally would throw RPG in here as well in the description because there are enough systems that line up with what we come to expect, like a gear with stat bonuses and attributes, various progression systems to work towards, a branching skill tree, character relationships that can be built, and so on. But for whatever reason, the developer has tried distancing themselves from the RPG label. I don't quite get it, but I guess they don't consider it one. So either way though, big open world game, lots of stuff to do, and I mean a lot. I don't think I could possibly overstate just how many systems, features, and mechanics are in this game. It is absurd. It's almost been a meme coming up to the release of the game, like, oh, what systems does Crimson Desert have? Yes, it's got all of the systems. It's got all of the things from all of the games. In fact, even at the 80-hour mark, I am still regularly being introduced to brand new gameplay systems and mechanics. It just keeps on going. And I've spoke to a lot of other people who also got the game for review, and there's even way more beyond what I have seen from what they've told me. So yeah, but here's kind of a basic rundown of like the flow of the game. So you play through the intro cinematic here. You've got an overview of the main characters, the rival faction of enemies, as well as the fundamentals of movement and combat. After that, you are brought out into the open world, spawning near the game's first major capital city. Here, you're going to go around, meeting various NPCs, progressing that main story, while also being introduced to some side quests and activities to engage with. What's so interesting to me, though, is that these side activities are actually quite interesting, with many of them being rather in-depth. In fact, at 80 hours, I know I could be much further along in the main story, but there's so much to do, see, and engage with that has been actually fun and entertaining that I've spent a majority of my time doing those things. I think this is one of the strengths of Crimson Desert being really a sandbox open world RPG. I can and have spent multiple days playing while not progressing the main story quest at all. But let me be a bit more specific about the kinds of things I'm talking about. So yeah, it's a big open world action combat game. You can go through doing the main story quest, watching some cutscenes, meeting characters, taking on enemy outpost, and doing these pinnacle boss fights. And you could definitely like primarily focus on just those things. But in the process of that, you're introduced to like all of this other stuff. So first off, we got the points of interest. The game's pretty densely packed with a variety of POIs to explore. Some of these will just be spots you can kind of root around in, collecting stuff, which I will add here. This game has like an impressive level of interactivity. You can interact with pretty much every object that you see in the environment. Like if you look at a table and there's 3 3 mugs, a few eggs, a plate, and a piece of bread, you can individually pick up all of those items. You could pick up barrels and sacks of flour, moving them around or throwing them. You can open and close windows, climb through open windows. If you come across a weapon rack and you see multiple swords and shields and stuff, you could individually pick up every piece of gear. It's pretty much near Bethesda levels of if you see it, you can interact with it, move it, or pick it up. So yeah, some of the points of interest you'll go into, it'll just be some items and things you might want. Maybe you'll find a few valuables, a couple of recipes, or even a treasure map. Awesome. Other points of interest might be crafting related. So you're going to come across places like a ranch, a quarry, a mill, a fishing dock. And here there will be an NPC you can engage with to learn recipes or purchase things for the professions, as well as practicing the profession. Like there's literally an area by the river where you go to dye your clothes. If you want to change your cosmetic thing, you're going there. You're not just doing it from a menu. You're physically going to the clothes dyeing location, which, as it would make sense to be, it's right by the water because you need the dyeing to be by the water. You mix it, you dye it, you drain it, you rinse it out, whatever. I don't know. I'm not a clothes dyeing expert, but I believe they're by water, right? And then you've got all those things like caves, ruins, temples, and other ancient structures oftentimes built into the environment. A lot of these areas are going to have hidden secrets worthy of uncovering. In fact, much of the best gear that I've found and am using has been from solving puzzles in places like these. And then you've got all of the military related points of interest, like the watchtowers, the camps, the forts, and the strongholds. Early on, these are going to be filled with one of the various enemy factions, and I say one because there are many of these. In fact, there is this entire Game of Thrones style faction system, with each faction vying for control of zones, and this actually applies to individual points of interest. So for example, there is a fishing dock right next to the starting city. Early on, I went there, I did some fishing for cooking up food, then I left to go do other stuff. What I didn't realize at the time was that the Bleed Bandit faction was encroaching closer and closer to town, capturing points of interest. And eventually, they took over and captured that fishing dock. So literally, I would open the map and see that the dock was controlled by the bandits. Going there, I found 30 bandits just wandering around. I had to eliminate them, thus reclaiming the point of interest for my faction and allowing me to fish peacefully, essentially. So in order to stop that from happening again, what I had to do was then go to other nearby points of interest that the bandits had control of and take them out. If not, they would have kept encroaching closer and closer to town, taking over more points of interest. Now, I'm not exactly 100% sure of the exact mechanics of the system, but what it seems like is that there are these primary locations, be it a fort or a camp, that acts as like their stronghold, and they flow out from. In fact, when you click on some of these areas, you're going to see connecting lines to nearby points of interest that I presume those are the areas that they can eventually take over if they're not stopped. So yeah, just going around this game's many points of interest, exploring, fighting, solving puzzles, collecting gear. I'll spend days just doing this and not even touching the main story quest. Oh, and I want to add here as well, I don't know if I've already said this, but 80 hours, I only have about a fourth of the map revealed. There's a lot of game here, and it's not. I've not been like diddling around. I've been actively doing stuff, exploring, finding new areas. There's just so much, and the game is so big. And then you've got all sorts of different other systems and mini games, like literal mini games, these side activities that you can go engage with at any time to make a little money. These include things like gambling, engaging in fistfights, or doing an archery contest. You can also invest in the stock market. I kid you not. Visit your local bank, set up a box, and you can literally invest and decide, do I want to do low risk, medium risk, or high risk, and enjoy your returns over time. As long as the market doesn't completely crash, who knows? I haven't seen it happen yet, but maybe if the bandits roll back into town, the market collapses. We'll find out. There's also an entire camp management system. This begins with you literally driving stakes, moving bags, and planting the flag on a piece of land that you get given after doing a certain quest objective. And then gradually over time, you'll find more of your Greymane clan who will join you at camp, helping you expand your facilities and going out on missions for resources, be it for getting more camp currency, more food, equipment, or logs and stones. And these activities, mind you, they are actually carried out in the world by your companions in real time. So if you send 4 people out to the nearby chicken farm in town to harvest eggs, if you go there while they're on their mission, you will actually see them working. Like you'll see them going through the chicken coop and picking up poop and stuff. Like it's actually something that they do in Black Desert as well, and I'm glad it's made incorporated into this game, because it's a really cool and helps add to the immersion and sort of just the immersion of the space. There is an entire crime system in the game, so say you attack a citizen or damage someone's property, this sends out an alert in this ringed area, and should you not leave that zone in time, or should you be spotted, a bounty then gets placed on your head. However, if you want to live the life of the criminal, you can do it. As you kill various bandits, you're going to collect these masks that enable illegal activity, then letting you sneak into people's homes and steal their property if that's what you want to do. Or you can play a bounty catcher. There's going to be bounties with these little flyers placed around town. You actually physically pick up the flyers and then you inspect them, getting the bounty then added to your quest log, and then you go track them down, beat them up, pick them up, and carry them on your horseback to the nearby jail, delivering them, collecting your reward. You can be the criminal or you can be the bounty hunter, whatever you want to be. I don't know. There's a whole system of befriending animals, essentially petting and feeding any dogs and cats that you find anywhere in the world, as far as I can tell, will fill up a meter of their kind of relationship to you. Once that meter is completely full, they can become your companion. At that point, they're going to just follow you around looting bodies. They won't pick up absolutely everything super quickly necessarily, but say you're fighting a bunch of enemies while that's happening, you're going to get items picked up rather than having to manually do it if you have a dog or cat companion with you. You can also tame many different types of animals to ride as mounts. Each one of these will come with their own stats and unique perks. Some of these are even combat related. So far, I have only found horses, but I do know in the game you can tame things like bears, tigers, and eventually even dragons to claim and ride as your own mounts. And then the puzzles. There are so many different types and just a huge plethora of puzzles in this game for all sorts of different things. You've got platforming puzzles, especially in the Abyss, which is kind of the sky island location. There are object matching puzzles. There's finding missing pieces and putting them in place. There's moving levers to try to engage a system. There are using abilities at key locations. There are a lot of puzzles. Expect to be spending a lot of time solving puzzles in this game, and a interesting variety. There's even those 9-piece puzzles where you move them around to try to get the image to look proper. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know. It's like a painting of a watchtower and you got to move the pieces around. And so I actually ended up going on Google and looking up, how do I do these 9-piece puzzles where you move them around? So now I know how to do those puzzles, at least. Thanks, game. Yeah, lots of puzzles in this game, and they're absolutely worth doing because they're either going to give you something like a valuable resource or currency. There are these skill point artifacts, which it's what it is. It's skill points for your skill tree. And then also a lot of good gear is hidden behind puzzles, having to find your way in a room or past some objective. So lots of puzzles, try to complete them because it's almost always totally worth your time. So yeah, that's just kind of like, that's not even everything, but that's kind of an overhead view of some of the notable things that I wanted to share with you about the game's open world nature, the points of interest, and the different kinds of systems and mini games and mechanics that you're going to come across. One big selling point of this game that I've absolutely loved as well is the combat. It's a fairly deep system. Or I don't know if deep is necessarily the word. At the very least, it's got a load of variety. There's probably actually far more options of how you can engage in the enemy than are even necessary most of the time, but I really like it for that fact. I went through and counted actually, and there's over 50 different types of attacks that you can do. It's kind of hilarious. So beyond all of the individual basic attacks, you know, you've got your sword and board or whatever weapon that you're using, because you can use a variety of weapons. It's not just sword and shield. There's a variety of two hands and a variety of different one hands that you can use. But you've got all your basic light and heavy attack combos and alternating between them. Like there's a 3 attack combo chain for light, 1 for heavy, and then you can change them and then you can hold them both together. But then there's also all of these contextual abilities as well, where depending on the situation, what the enemy is doing, whether you're blocking, whether they adjust attacked or whatever, all these variations. And then there's an entire system of kind of like wrestling where you can clothesline, you can drop kick, you can pick up and toss people around, you can kick them, you can roundhouse kick. You can actually just play like a monk brawler if you want. There's literally an option to drop your melee weapon and just fisticuffs. And then that has its own variations of attacks as well. So there's probably actually many over 50 types of attacks, because I didn't even actually account for that whole second additional suite of abilities that's just for the fisticuffs option. So yeah, there's a lot to the combat. It feels great. It's kind of, there's a strange thing though, where when you start out the game and you're just fighting off the hordes of bandits, you feel like a god and you're just smashing through everything. And then you get to those boss fights and they're gonna they're gonna wipe you, dude. Like, they are very, very. I think the first major boss I spent over an hour on. It was such like a stark contrast to the combat that I was experiencing, where I was taking on 20 bandits and kind of just dismantling them piecemeal. Kind of felt like the Batman Arkham games or something. But then you get to the boss fight and they are just super aggressive, all over you, dealing tons of damage. It's definitely going to be, I think, potentially one of the main criticisms that people have of the game, how difficult the boss fights are. But I actually enjoyed it because it made me focus more on actually what I was doing, what abilities I was using, balancing my defenses and my positioning and all of that. So, but in general, I really enjoy the combat in this game. They do feel like two different games, the kind of general open world taking on the hordes of enemies combat and the boss fights. They play very differently in what you have to do and how you have to play. But all around, I really like fighting stuff in this game. It's fun. I'll just literally go into camps of enemies and just clear them out and pick up loot, and I could do that all day, frankly. In terms of the game's progression systems, there's a fair bit here to engage with. You're going to have a lot of different types of gear that you're going to come across, and it's got different looks and defensive stats and maybe some innate attributes, but a big part of it is you're going to have these sockets in which you place items that give you all sorts of perks. Some of these are going to include like increased damaging to various abilities, unlocking new capabilities for you, or just some flat stat buffs, like just, hey, here's some increased damage, some increased attack speed, increased crit, here's some health regeneration, things along those lines. You've also got the skill tree that has 3 branching paths, sort of broadly speaking. One path is focused on spirit, which is like your magic abilities. Then you've got the physical path with the end point being stamina. And then there are some more core abilities tied behind what is basically the health related path. That's the last node, increases your HP. Tons of different abilities and attacks, as we mentioned, with multiple levels, that some of which can be leveled up multiple levels, that also in the process add more moves and contextual abilities as well. Also, part of the progression is just resource gathering. Like a survival game, for example, you will go out and harvest resources, chopping down trees, harvesting ores, or picking up plants, and that will be used for gear and weapon crafting, for upgrading your items, which is very important in this game, especially when it comes to taking on the boss fights. You want to make sure your weapons and your armor are, it's called the refinement system, but it's an upgrade system. You want to make sure they're refined as much as you can get them. And then a whole cooking system, which you will also most certainly be engaging with, because it is really important to have a lot of food, because food is your healing potion, essentially, along with having some other stats and perks that they can give you. And then eventually, as you're going through your playthrough, you will be introduced to the witches, and this adds another layer to progression, allowing you to add sockets to gear and then put in those attribute nodes with those various perks that we just mentioned. So there's a lot more to this game, but that's kind of like a broad overview of, I think, some of the key points that I wanted to share with you. Now let me just go through some of my likes and dislikes and or feedback with the game. Kicking off the likes is this game's size. It's unbelievable. Early on, before playing the game, I saw estimates that it's like a 50-hour game. There's no way, dude. Like, I think maybe if you were to speed run just the main story quest, you could get it in around 40 to 50 hours, maybe. But I don't even know how that's necessarily possible, because the boss fights really do act as hard cutoffs. When I hit that first main story quest boss, I had to spend some hours prepping for that fight, because I just wasn't, I was dying way too quickly and I wasn't doing enough damage. So I had to go harvest resources, refine, upgrade my gear, get some new gear pieces, and then also spend some time making sure I had enough consumables to heal myself enough to survive the fight. So people saying they're getting through this game in 50 hours. Again, those were like pre-release estimates for some quotes from the devs or something. I literally don't know how it's possible. I am at 80 hours. I have not uncovered a fourth of the map. Now, I know I could be further along in the main story quest, but I'm just enjoying playing the game because there's so much game that is actually enjoyable that I haven't really cared to progress it. I'm not sure. We'll see what the speed runs look like. I mean, who knows? Gamers are crazy, so you're probably going to get some Dark Souls vets out there. Maybe they finish the campaign in 3 hours or something. I don't know how it's possible, but anyways, the game is huge, and I've really adored it for that reason. It's not just for the sake of being big. I'm enjoying its bigness. You know what I mean? There's like a lot there that's literally enjoyable to engage with. The whole thing is very engrossing and immersive as well. It really does feel like a great epic fantasy adventure, with the exploration, the level of interaction with the world, all of the different points of interest, the things to discover. I mean, there's just literally stuff to do, find, see, and interact with everywhere. The pacing also is slow, but I do find this in a good way. Like, I'm not blitzing through the space. It's made my time in the game that much more more memorable. In fact, I spent around my first 10 hours literally just kind of hovering around that starter city. There was a lot to explore, going through the city, exploring it, but then also going to nearby camps, maybe taking out some bandits, learning about new mechanics. I'd do some of that, then return back to town. I learned about the bounty system. Then I went out and hunted down a few targets, went back to town, collected my reward. Then I learned about gear upgrades and I did some of that. I went out to farm materials for the gear. That took some time. I went back, upgraded my gear. Then with that better gear, I went back to take out some bandit camps. And again, all of this is not progressing the main story quest, right? Combat is quite enjoyable. I do really enjoy it. I also got to say, I've quite grown to like the look of the game, and it runs unexpectedly well, especially for the draw distance of the game. I don't think I actually at any point had a major performance issue. There's not one that I can recall. Like, it was pretty smooth the entire playtime. There's some cool enemy design. Specifically, some of the bosses have really interesting, unique looks and corresponding kind of mechanics and abilities that they can duel. Also, one thing I really like that this game does is it seems that every single boss has unique special weapons or gear that they will drop that's thematically tied to the boss. Like, you will get a weapon that does things that the boss abilities did when you were fighting them. And I love that games do this. And it seems that from every major boss that I've fought so far, this has been the case, and I really, really like that. Also, as mentioned before, bosses are seriously difficult. They've got multiple phases. It's been 3 phases every time that I've fought one of the major bosses, and they pretty much get increasingly harder as you go throughout. Some of these took me well over an hour for sure. I think these will definitely be progression blockades for the main story quest for a lot of people. Like I said, requiring you to go out, power up, learn new skills, improve your gear, whatever. Something else that I love is it just feels like a proper lived-in fantasy world. The towns are teeming with people going about their business. On the paths in and out of town, you're going to see them moving along, doing things in the respective surrounding farmland areas, people walking with their livestock or riding trading carts or fishing in the waters or dyeing clothes at the dyeing station, whatever. It really feels like a lived-in populated space. And then you've got all the skill contests that are going around, like the archery, the bare knuckle fighting, and the arm wrestling. That's really cool too. And because I enjoy the combat, something else I really love is many of the enemy infested points of interest are like overloaded with enemies. One of the early big enemy POIs you come across is the stone quarry, and there must have been like 200 plus bandits in there. There were just so many. It took like 20 or 30 minutes to clear out. It's not like one of these, I don't know, I feel like sometimes you've got these games where you're clearing a camp but you're in and out of there in like a minute or two. No, these are like seriously big locations with lots of enemies for you to work through, and I've really enjoyed that. Okay, so those are a bulk of the pros, what I've really liked about the game. Now let's talk about some of the bits of feedback and constructive criticism here. The controls initially were very, very awkward. Now I got used to this. I actually ended up swapping to mouse and keyboard, and just right off the rip, I enjoyed it more than the gamepad controls. Even then, there's a few kind of strange extra inputs than you might expect. So for example, if you want to interact with an NPC, it's actually several button inputs that you have to do. You have to walk up to them and you have to hold down kind of the inspect button, and then that shows up a sub menu of different things you can do, which is like greet them, give them a gift, or engage with them so you can see their menu, and then you engage with them, and then there's another sub menu that pops up, and then you engage with that sub menu. So to go up and like talk to an NPC or like engage with the blacksmith or whatever, you're looking at like 4 or 5 button pushes before you get to the thing you want to do, rather than just like walking up and hitting E or something and then you're in the menu. It's multiple. So, and that felt even more cumbersome on the gamepad. So I think awkward controls, I mean, it's something you saw a lot of in the previews, and I expect people will also bring it up on the full release. Inventory space was a nightmare initially. Now they did end up partway through the review process, like I think about 4 or 5 days ago, they released a patch where they just, at the start of the game, they give you way more inventory space. Hopefully that fixes the issue, but I think even then, you're going to want to spend a lot of your time focusing on upgrading your inventory, the main story quest line, various side activities, any quest that you get. If it gives you more bag space, it will tell you, get that stuff done, because you're going to want the inventory. Also, there's a way to group categories, so like all of your cooking items, normally they'll show up just like individual tiles, and it scrolls all the way down, taking up all your slots. If you group them, it gives it a subcategory. Because this is a game where you can pick up practically everything, your inventory can very easily fill up very quickly, so categorizing them that way is very helpful. I suggest that. I'm going to do a tips video, by the way, the day after this goes live, so you can check out that with some of these bits of advice. You know, if you know me, I'm not much of a big narrative guy, but I gotta say, even with that being the case, I found so much of the dialogue that takes place in this game very odd and very unnatural sounding. I don't know that I'm gonna say I think it's AI dialogue. I think it's probably, if nothing else, words, just kind of a lost in translation sort of things. But kind of the pacing and the delivery of a lot of the voice lines and the dialogue between characters, it's just very strange, right? It's not a huge deal, but I just want to point out it's very, very strange. Now, playing on the mouse and keyboard, there's some obvious keybind shortcuts that just don't exist. So you know how most, if you're playing an open world RPG, you want to open the map, you hit M. You want to open your inventory, you hit I. That's not an option. Literally, there's not even the option to bind any of those things. You have to, again, do multiple input. You have to hold down escape, scroll with a mouse wheel on the side menu about which sub menu category you want, and then engage with it. Or if you just tab escape, it's going to bring up the menu, and then you click on, you click on your inventory, you click on your skills. But there aren't keybinds that you would expect there to be keybinds, shortcuts to menus and systems. That just it's literally not in the game. Like, I cannot bind open up my map with M. There was no option in the binding settings. Another thing I want to point out is that this game kind of leaves a lot up for you to figure out, or rather it doesn't explain a ton of things. Now, this can either be a pro or a con, but I will at least say this is very much going to be a game with a massive wiki that people are going to be actively using to learn about what stuff is and how stuff works. And expect there to be like thousands of guide videos for various quests or unlocking pieces of gear or whatever. There's just a lot of vague or literally just not explained whatsoever in this game, and you can get stumped. Were it not for the Discord, the review Discord basically, where people are sharing bits of information and asking questions and helping each other, I would have been stuck at many different locations for way longer than I was. Now, part of that can be a lot of fun, and I try to figure stuff out as much as possible. But if I was stuck on a puzzle for an hour, I just asked people like, yo guys, what do I do? And sometimes it's the answer was very unintuitive and probably something I almost would have never figured out myself. So yeah, this is one of those games. The game has fast travel things, but you actually have to go find them manually, and I really enjoy that. But probably my biggest complaint about them is they're placed awkwardly. So even though there's a fast travel for the main starting city, but it's like right on the outside of town, and it's in a divot, so that every time you fast travel to the city, you pretty much have to get back on your horse and actually ride into town, rather than the fast travel being conveniently located in the city. Similarly, there are fast travel location for your camp when you eventually set up the Greymane camp and you got all your companions there and whatnot. That is also just far enough on the outskirts of the camp to be an annoying, you fast travel, but then you got to do another short distance travel before you get to where you're actually trying to go. So I like the fast travel system in that they're kind of difficult to find locations, and some of them even require you to solve puzzles to unlock the fast travel. I just wish they were better located to the thing that you're trying to go to. Like, the fast travel for the town should pretty much be in the town, not outside of town where you have to ride back into town. Same with the camp, and there's a few other examples like that. And then lastly, I'll just say, I think again, the boss difficulty is going to be a bit jarring for people. I expect there to be complaints online about the difficulty level of the bosses in comparison. And I got to say, a lot of it almost felt unfair, and that my best answer to defeating them was to almost ignore mechanics and just bring as much health healing as possible and just spam through taking the damage and heal myself up constantly. So I don't know. We'll see how people gel with the boss fights. I enjoyed the challenge, but it's definitely quite jarring. I will say that. All right, and I'm going to wrap up this video by saying this. While I was playing for review, initially I found myself kind of in the mindset of wanting to rush through the game and finish the main story quest as quickly as I could. But honestly, I ended up realizing I was just having so much more fun just doing whatever I wanted because of the sandbox nature and how big the game is and the thousands of systems and all of the different exploration and the puzzle solving and enjoying the combat and going through the points of interest, working with the camp and helping my comrades with their missions and all that. I just really enjoyed taking my time in this game. So I don't even care that I've not finished the main story quest, because I've played for 8 hours and I'm having a hell of a time, and I'm still looking forward to playing more. The game is so expansive that just when you think you've played it all and seen everything there is to see, you get introduced to something brand new 50, 60, 80 plus hours in. I mean, I'm still constantly being introduced to new game systems and mechanics. I didn't even start learning about the camp thing, which is a big part of the gameplay loop, until like the 20-hour mark. I was introduced to it. It was crazy. And lastly, every day, I just keep wanting to log in and play more, go further and see what else the game has. In fact, the worst part about putting this video together is I'm not playing the game right now. So yeah, I'm gonna jump back in. I'll be playing some more Crimson Desert. I took a bit of a break from my streaming because I was playing this pretty much the past couple of weeks, but I'm gonna return to it now that the game's out. I'll keep on playing, so you can catch me on stream if you want. But that's all for the review. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it informative and helpful. And yeah, that's it. Again, this game won't be for everyone. I think some people are legitimately just gonna hate it and totally not get it, but I freaking love it. I've had a total blast, and this is great. Like probably one of my favorite games this year for sure, if not the past couple of years. I mean, either way, it's up there. It doesn't have to be number one or not. It's really great. I love it. Having a blast. I like it. Crimson Desert, good. Definitely recommend it. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Right? Take it easy.